Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternities, a live discussion where we'll be talking about the first half of Westworld Season 3. So joining me here to talk about Westworld, someone who actually covers it on their channel, like me, Akton Tamko, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Mark. It's good to be here. Really looking forward to talking about this season with you.
Yeah, so I have been watching this, even though I haven't been covering it on my channel. I've just been too busy with other things, but I've been super impressed with the season. So we're here to talk about the first 4 episodes. So spoiler warnings for like the entire 4 episodes. So we're going to talk about spoilers from episode 4 throughout the entire video. So if you say, oh, I've seen episode 1 and 2, so I can stick around. No, we're going to give away spoilers up to episode 4. So if you haven't seen up to the end of episode 4, do not watch any part of this video. Anyway, had to get that out of the way. But I'll start with you, Akton. What do you think of Westworld Season 3 so far?
I am really loving it. I had been looking forward for a while for them to get beyond the cowboys shooting people thing, and like we're well beyond that. It was nice to get a little taste of the park in episode 2, but at the same time, I'm glad we've kind of moved beyond that. And yet, I feel like Westworld is better than ever as far as its integrity, just how complicated and just deeply woven all the plot lines are, and just how interesting it is, and just this is a show that like makes you think. You could watch it 2 or 3 times and pick up new things, probably 4 or 5 times, and you pick up new things every time. And I love shows like that, and I just feel like season 3 is really doing a great job of that. And also, I'd say one of my favorite aspects of the show, and maybe we'll talk about this a little more as we go through, is that we have been presented with these 2 opposing forces. There's Dolores and there's Serac, and there's Bernard and Maeve too, but I think we'll see. We haven't quite seen how they will fit in ultimately. But I think the 2 major forces, there's Dolores on one end and Serac on the other, and I'm like, who's the good guy there? I mean, they're both like villains, but they both feel like they're doing something for the greater good of their species. So it's I just find that stuff just very interesting. Like Westworld just lives in shades of gray and is not black and white. And yeah, I could go on and on, but I'm just loving everything about this season so far. I mean, there are not everything. I did have a couple complaints about my reviews, but overall, I don't feel like that the things that I think they didn't do well. No show's perfect. Every show is going to have its flaws. So overall, I don't think the things that they did do well have brought down my overall enjoyment of the season thus far.
Yeah, from watching your reviews, I think we share a lot of the same complaints, but some complaints that don't bother you that much bother me more, where some that do really bother you don't bother me as much. So, but that would be interesting.
That's typical between me and you.
Yeah, but it's Westworld's a really weird situation, weird show for me, because it seems like the general popular opinion is that the show just keeps getting worse. Like I watched several reviews where they said, oh, the show's total shit now. It used to be a masterpiece and it really went downhill. Where it's funny because I have the exact opposite opinion, where I thought the show started like season 1, I would still say to this day is the most overrated season of all time. Like I think the bluster and the hype over that season was like way beyond how good it actually was. I liked it well enough. I thought it was a good season, but I don't think it was anywhere near a masterpiece. I thought it had a lot of flaws. Like you were just talking about how complex the show is. There's no good and evil. Whereas in season 1, I think there were a lot of characters who came up as cardboard cutout, mustache twirly villains. But I think the show has really moved beyond that. For me, it's the exact opposite, where I think the show gets better and better and better and better every season. Like I like season 2 better than season 1, and season 3 I think it's turning out to be the best season, my favorite season anyway. And part of the reason is like pretty much like you just said, I'm not a fan of Westerns, so that turned me off on season 1. And I was like, all the Western stuff that people were getting hyped over is the stuff I did not like. Now, where people were complaining, oh, it's called Westworld, but there's no Western part. I'm like, good. I'm so much more interested in the show now that has gone out into the real world and has gotten beyond the simple theme park setting. And I think it's really expanded. I am just loving this new season. But, like you said, there some faults there.
I can't recall me doing any reviews or any discussion with you where it's 100% perfect. I mean, there's always every show you watch. Nobody's 100% perfect. But I want to say I absolutely 100% agree with you and about the seasons getting better as we go along. Like, I think the show has gotten better and better and better. I think particularly the first half of season 1 is not very good, and I said that when it came on. And I have now done 2 full rewatches of seasons 1 and 2, and most recently I did a rewatch of seasons 1 and 2, and the first half of season 1 I stand by. And I remember when the premiere came on, there was all this like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, and everybody, this is better than the premiere of Game of Thrones. This is better than Game of Thrones in its heyday. And I watched that premiere again, and it's one of the worst series premieres of any show that I end up liking. It is not a very good premiere. It's a lot of standing around and exposition and throwing out complicated like terminology, like technobabble that doesn't make any sense. It's just kind of a lot of standing around, and it's not very good at all. So my mind is blown when people think that the first season was the best. I think very clearly it's the exact opposite. And I agree with you that, of course, we can't make a final judgment of the season until it's done. I think so far it is the best season. And just another thing that I just want to throw out there, another thing that I'm noticing is like all the parallels that they're drawing between humans and hosts, I think is very, very interesting. Because you could maybe even stretch that and apply that to just our modern day, like present day life. And they're doing this thing, the showrunners. I at one point had likened it to a Black Mirror episode. I think last week I did that, but because they are doing this similar sort of thing. They've talked about how they
which Black Mirror episode?
Just in general.
Okay, gotcha.
Like it could be a Black Mirror episode, and the reason why I say that is because the showrunners have actually said that they are doing basically the same thing that a Black Mirror episode does, which is look at where we are now and try to predict our possible trajectory, like where we could go. And so that's why I think it's similar to Black Mirror in that way, is that they're looking at where we are in present day and what is one possible trajectory for us where we could end up. And they've said that that's what they're doing. So that's why it kind of reminds me it's similar to Black Mirror in that way.
Yeah, and there's another thing I want to discuss before we get into the things. Is I noticed in your last review you were talking about a lot of reviewers complaining that the show is too simple now. That's like simplified and not as
dumbed down. Yeah, I heard that before the season started, when their first initial critical response came out, before the common folk like us got to watch any episodes. They all got to see the first 4, and I was seeing this kind of common theme of, it's dumbed down, it's not as
the funny thing is, because I saw a bunch of other reviews that criticize season 2 and 3, or the start of 3, for being too complicated and too up its own ass and having too many complicated themes. And so I don't think either is the case.
Actually, the dumbed down thing is interesting because season 2, the complaint about season 2 has always been that it's too complicated. So I'm like, what do you want?
See, I think that they did sort of simplify a little bit from season 2 because they heard the complaint that it was too complex and they wanted to sort of make it easier. And I think they did a good job at that. I think they did it to a level that's still complex. It's still complicated, but it's not like too like confusing. Yeah. And so I think it's perfect. So I think it's even better in season 2, and I think season 2 is better than season 1. Yeah. So the complaint that is. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the specific complaints and one of the specific things that I think the showrunners addressed was the multiple timelines. People had a hard time following the multiple timelines. In season 2, I had personally no problem whatsoever. I don't know why people had such a problem with this. Like, you could follow like the dude from Vikings, I forget his name, whenever he was
Floki.
in a new future storyline.
Strand.
Strand. like you could, I had personally no problem whatsoever following the timelines, but this is big. I can't follow it. It's too confusing. I don't know. But that was a big complaint. And then season 1 had the different timelines, but they tell you about it. Season 2, they let you know what the timelines are. People still complained. So now they're like, okay, we'll make it all basically, one timeline with some flashbacks thrown in there.
Yeah. So I don't see how the reveal in season 2 about Strand and all that being a different timeline was more confusing than the whole thing about William in season 1. Like,
you always knew it was a different timeline.
Did you?
In season 2, yeah.
In season 2. Yeah, sure.
Not season 1, but in season 2, there was always obvious that it was 2 separate timelines.
Yeah.
People had a hard time keeping track of which is which, and I didn't. So I didn't have any fun.
No, me neither. I don't know. That's what I love about this show is that it's so complex and you can go back and watch it again and get a totally different feeling. And even though I agree they kind of uncomplicated season 3 a little bit, it's still that way. It's still the way where you go back and watch it again, you get a totally different perspective, and that's why I love this show. That's why I think it really works. So I did want to talk a bit about a theory first that we now know is not the case because we know the answer of who Charlotte and all those other hosts are. We got that answer in episode 4, and the theory I heard suggested there would be different timelines in season 3. They suggested that Caleb was Charlotte, and so the stuff we saw with Caleb was in one timeline, and the future timeline was Charlotte was
Well, I heard a lot of theories. I didn't hear that one.
You didn't hear that one?
No.
That one goes. I saw a couple videos about it. It seemed a bit popular.
Because I did, last week I covered a few of the theories. I didn't cover that one because I wasn't familiar with it. But
yeah, but you kind of covered it because you did a general "it's not a human," which would cover Caleb.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and your reasoning there was sound that because she said she was referring to us, like the host, so it wouldn't make sense.
Also, she had very clear memories of the events that happened on the at Westworld, and that wouldn't make any sense for Caleb. Wouldn't make sense for any human, really.
Yeah. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's get into this. Let's start with episode 1. It was I can't read this. Parse Domine? Is that Parse
Domine or something?
Domine.
On the Latin term.
Latin, yeah. But so many shows love having Latin titles. It's really pretentious. But anyway. Yeah, so I was really impressed with this finale. Premiere, sorry. I don't know. Maybe I might dare say even more than you. Maybe I don't know because I really enjoyed the Caleb stuff, which I know if I remember from your review, you had some issues with the Caleb stuff in this episode.
I don't remember now what I was thinking at the time, but yeah, I think I did have some issues with it. I just you know what it was at the time I was just like not like I felt like if that wasn't Aaron Paul, like I wouldn't give a crap about that character. Like, oh, it's Aaron Paul, so I automatically relate to him. Otherwise, like I didn't feel like the show did anything to draw me into that character. I later said in episode 3 that I feel like that was like the true beginning of Dolores and Caleb's storyline, and episode 1 was sort of the prologue and setting things up and like the prologue. Especially for Caleb's storyline.
But do you think it's not? Do you think it's now necessary though that we got that backstory for Caleb first?
Yeah, I never thought that it was unnecessary. It just wasn't like. I mean, as I was watching it, even I was like, I'm sure this is necessary. We need this, but I'm not enthralled by it. So, it wasn't that it wasn't unnecessary. It was just that I'm sure it was necessary, but this is not grabbing me And I didn't dislike the first episode.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I didn't mean to imply that.
Yeah. I
But
did think that it was very action heavy. It reminded me of like a a corporate spy thriller, which isn't fine. All I said was if every single episode was just like that, I would lose interest. But I was fine with it for the premiere.
not me. I loved that. I thought the whole thing was great. It was taking on like a Born Identity type. And you know what? The maybe the set design and the design of like the cars and all that stuff reminds me a lot of Blade Runner. I suppose some people might say it's a bit more clean vision of the future, where Blade Runner is a bit more sort of I don't know what you would call it, poor or like rough or whatever, but it still had that similar sort of sleek feel to it, which I don't know. For me, even though I don't like Blade Runner that much, it got me into it. That just having it I felt familiar to me. It felt like something I could really jump into. I think they did a great job at world building because they were basically having to do world building here because we had no idea what the outside world was like before in the previous seasons.
Yeah, and I've heard that Blade Runner comparison as well. To be honest, I have not watched Blade Runner in my adult life or like my recent adult life. Like I probably watched it like 20 years ago, and I haven't because like you, I've never really been that into Blade Runner. So I've never bothered to revisit it. I'd never bothered to watch the new ones. So, but I've heard that that's true. but that did nothing for me because I know Blade Runner is not a thing that I'm really into. You're right. It was like really world building. I almost feel like we got even more deeper into it in episode 3. But that was kind of the start of the world buildings. And you're right. They really do have to build this whole new world because until now we haven't seen outside of the park what the world is like outside of the park, except for like William hosting some fancy gala with a bunch of rich people, but I mean we haven't really seen outside of the park.
And just me personally, my own taste. I mean, maybe there's a subconscious part of my brain that latches on to the character of Caleb more because it's played by Aaron Paul. Like I can't really divorce my feelings from that. But I would say that if I tried to divorce my feelings from that, I would say that I would love it anyway, because I think what it really reminded me of was the first episode of season 2 of The Leftovers, how that entire episode focused on totally new characters we'd never seen before, and any of the characters we were familiar with were completely gone, which, wasn't exactly the case here because we did get Dolores, but we got jumped right into a new character. And it reminded me a lot of the exploration of John Murphy in The Leftovers, which I loved. So I'm pretty sure even if this wasn't Aaron Paul, I would still love it.
Yeah. Well, I actually thought that going into the season, I think when I did I did a trailer review like way back when, several months ago. And one of the things I said, it would be really cool if they did exactly like The Leftovers. I was thinking more in terms of exactly the way The Leftovers did, where we would get Caleb's storyline fully in episode 1, and then Dolores just comes in as a side character at the end, and then Dolores' story fully in episode 2, which is more how The Leftovers did it. But I was actually happy with that aspect of it, even though it wasn't exactly how I wanted it to be. I just wasn't as drawn in by the Caleb character as I was by the Murphys, I guess.
Fair enough. I mean, the one thing I'll completely agree with you on, it was the most predictable thing in the world that his old war buddy he was talking to was just a computer program. I mean, when they like just try to play it off as like this huge reveal, actually it's just a program. I was like, yeah, I figured that out like half an hour ago.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty obvious from the beginning. Because you never see him. Yeah.
I don't think it made it worse, though. I think it was still.
No, I don't think it made it worse either. But it was just like kind of like, when they do the I was like,
yeah, exactly.
Yes, that was pretty obvious from like the very first second he started talking to the guy. It was not any big big surprise. But no, it doesn't make it bad.
And I also loved the way they played Dolores in this episode, like the huge badass and doing all the espionage and whatnot. Like, I heard some people really criticizing the opening scene where she goes to that one. Is he German? I'm assuming he's German. The one dude who was living in China and invades.
American, I don't know.
Was he? Oh, he seemed German to me. I don't know. I think I've seen that actor before play German, so maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, he's in a huge mansion. She infiltrates it. Like, I thought that was a badass scene. I thought that was a great way to like thrust into this new season.
I absolutely agree. Were there people saying otherwise?
Yeah. Well, there was a few people like hating on the whole episode, saying this new season sucks or whatever, and they thought that.
Well, they can just shut up and stop. You know what, Mark? I think he had like an Australian accent or something. Now that I think about it.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
I have to watch it.
But I don't remember him being German. Anyways, but yeah, I freaking loved that scene. I thought that was a great opening scene for a season, just showing us just how badass Dolores is now.
Yeah, particularly the way she sort of infiltrated his. Hold on, I'm looking the actor up, and it says German Democratic Republic. Yeah, so he is German.
Democratic Republic is where he's from.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That's where he was born, anyway. Yeah.
I don't know that he was playing a German character.
Was born in, maybe he was putting on a different accent. Maybe I recognize the actor as being German and other stuff I've seen.
Yeah.
But
I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I have to go back and watch it. But yeah, no, I thought that scene was amazing, and then we introduced to sort of Dolores dating that boyfriend guy. Now, I just watched your review of episode 4, where you said you didn't catch the fact that he thought that she was dead, but I thought that was pretty clear from episode 1 that the security guy was going off to kill her. And that when the clone or whatever you call it, the host version of him came back, he reported that he did kill her.
Oh, I guess I just forgot that.
Yeah. Like, he didn't use terms like, he didn't say exactly I killed her. It's like the deed is done or the job, some vague term like that.
Yeah. I guess I just didn't remember that. But.
Yeah. But no, I thought that whole thing was really awesome as well. How they presented this guy as a huge villain, badass, but by the end of the episode, Dolores kills him and replaces him with a host, which I thought was a pretty bold move.
Yeah, no, I thought that was great too. And I remember mentioning in my episode 1 review that it felt very Battlestar Galactica-ish, how they're replacing you. But actually, anytime. But I also think I said that any movie or TV show where androids are taking over the world, they always do that. So it's not, and that's not a bad thing. I actually thought that was good.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. I think it's reminiscent of Battlestar Galactica. It definitely reminds me of it, but it's different enough to be really original, its own thing. It's doing something that's ultimately completely different from it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when you have 2 different shows about androids who are rebelling, then you're going to have some crossover. Yeah,
there's some of crossover with Picard as well that reminds me, because they had that whole android plot last season.
yeah, exactly.
So anything else about episode 1 before we move on?
No, I don't think so. I think we can move on.
All right, so let's move on to episode 2, and I think you might have liked this episode a bit more than me. I also did really enjoy this episode. I thought it was a great episode as well, but I don't know, for the first part of the episode, I wasn't really that interested because we're back in the park, or supposedly back in the park, and I was like, and the fact that they weren't showing any Dolores or Caleb, I was actually, to be honest, a bit disappointed in that we're focusing entirely on Maeve. But then, of course, once we got the huge reveal towards the end of the episode that wasn't really in the park, that was all simulation. Yeah, that was pretty fucking cool, and it was really amazing how she was able to break out of the program and like inhabit this robot body and try to run away with her. What do they call it? The little globe? What do you call those things?
Or pearls, I think.
Pearls. Yeah, that's it. Or brain balls, the other time.
I always call them brain balls. I think they're called pearls.
Pearls, yeah. I mean, I've heard other people call them brain balls as well. But yeah, like so that was so I do have to admit, like the episode definitely grew on me after we got the twist, and that it was in fact what's his face, Sirach. And I just gotta pause for a second here. Sirach, I cannot say that name without thinking that there's a character in Star Trek named Sirach. He was like the grandfather of Vulcan philosophy. He was like the ancient Vulcan who created the whole Vulcan philosophy. His name is Sirach. So I keep thinking of him as a Vulcan every time I hear Sirach. Like he created Vulcan logic. Like he appeared in an episode of Enterprise as well. I think he was the dude in the Savage Curtain too that fought with Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, that's actually where he's most fresh in my mind. I watched the original series recently, and he's in the Savage Curtain. Obviously, I think that's obviously his first appearance.
Yeah, that was his first mention of him.
Yeah, he's fighting with alongside Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, that's what the name of that guy was.
I watched one review of Westworld where they kept calling the guy Sarek, and I'm like, no, he's not Sarek. That's Spock's father. This is Sirach, the father of Vulcan logic. Yeah. But anyway,
it's his last name though. It's not his. It's not his first name. For his first name, I always forget what it is. But he said,
okay. But Vulcans only have one name.
My name is blah 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 Sirach.
Okay, I think I remember that was his last name. But still, it's the name they use for him all the time. So that's why. But anyway, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, episode? I guess for me, I knew coming in that we weren't getting Dolores and Caleb, or I suspected that we weren't, just based on where the previous episode left off and what the previews were showing us. It seemed, and also like I wasn't as into the Caleb storyline from episode 1 as I mentioned, so I was happy with the break and then get back to him in episode 3. Like I didn't feel like I needed him in that episode. I think I would have taken away from the episode if they had cut back to Dolores and Caleb. So I was fully expecting what we got, and I was very, very happy with what we got. And I kind of felt like we did need sort of an epilogue at the park, like just have one more episode take place at the park. That's not to say we'll never ever go back there. We may go back there again, but I did feel like we needed a little wrap up at the park, and we needed definitely, since Maeve was last seen there, we needed to start there. And so I was expecting it. I was happy with it, and I was very happy with the twist that it wasn't really the park, especially when they brought Lee Sizemore back, and he was like, "Oh, the bullets just missed my heart," and I was like, come on. And I'm usually like super against like everybody being a host. And I was like, you better be a host. But then it ended up he wasn't a host, nor did the bullets just miss his heart. He was just part of a simulation. And it was cool to bring that character back in a way and be able to get that actor back. So I was very, very happy with all of it. I absolutely love this.
Well, now we were talking earlier about how they were playing with like different timelines, and they didn't do that this season, but was a fake out here because Bernard was going to Westworld, and it was a fake out that they were trying to make us think that him and Maeve were both in the same theme park, but in fact she's in the simulation, so they're not at the same location at all. So the whole time I kept thinking they were going to meet up, but then we find out that actually no, there are totally different storylines that kind of intercut it to make you think that it was at the same place, which I thought was cool. I did really, really enjoy that fake out.
Yeah, in fact, Maeve was not at the park at all. Her big ball was, I guess, I think we can maybe, I don't know if they ever said where Sirach's mansion is or whatever. I'm guessing maybe it's in Singapore where they ended up in episode 4. But I'm not sure.
I could have sworn I saw something on behind the scenes where they said it was in Italy, but I don't know. I might be wrong. They'll quote me on that.
But it was definitely not. The point is she was very far away from the park because she was
maybe even Los Angeles. Actually, I don't
know. Well, they end up in Singapore.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's where his mansion also was, or if they flew over there. Who knows? But but yeah, the point is she wasn't at the park. And they did make you think that she was, and I thought that was really well done. I thought that was brilliant.
And it's funny what you said about Sizemores, because it didn't occur to me to even question that, because I've seen this done in TV shows all the time where characters just magically come by. Oh, I'm just injured a little bit or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's a bit cheesy, but whatever, I'll go with it. But then when they revealed it, I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. It's not really him. I should have seen that.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know. I have a little bit higher expectation of Westworld than to do that. Like, oh, here, the bullets just missed my heart. No, they didn't. That would have been ridiculous if they had.
Now, I do want to get into my huge complaint, which I don't know. Maybe you'll tell me otherwise, but I think this bothered me more than it bothered you. But the whole thing about oh fuck! What the guy's name is escaping me now, but the reveal that he's a host, Stubbs, that's the name. That bothers me to this. That really pisses me off. Because I don't know. You were talking about in your review just now about how the writers even admit that they weren't thinking that he was a host, like they wrote him as a human for the first season at least, and that's obvious. And I think. This whole, and I agree with what you said once about how enough with revealing humans are hosts, like just enough with it. But I don't know. You seem to imply that you'll give this one a pass, but I'm not giving it a pass. I think it's bullshit. I think it's ridiculous. And plus, like behind the things thing, they said, "Oh, we revealed that he was a host in the last season." The fuck you did? You just said that is part of my core programming. That just doesn't mean he's a host. He could just be helping Dolores for some other reason. And even if he was a host, why is he helping Dolores if he's programmed to help Bernard? Like, I don't know. This whole thing really bothers me, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I guess I was just gonna let it go and just because I love so much else about the season. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna let this one go. I'm not gonna let it bring the whole show down for me. But I absolutely agree with you. And when they said, "Oh, we revealed it in season 2," the thing that pisses me off was that makes me look like I'm wrong, because a lot of people were saying in season 2 that they revealed he was a host. A lot of people said that, and I'm like, no, they didn't. He was just using a metaphor, because they often use host language as a metaphor for humans, often, and also, like I pointed out in that review of that episode, that he also used human language in that same speech where he said, well, Ford hired me to Ford didn't hire him if he's a host, because it's not like he's getting paid. Ford like built him, programmed him, and to do his bidding. And so there was like human language used too in that same speech. So I was convinced he was not a host, and then they're like, "Oh no, we revealed he was a host."
I think that is a very lazy reveal. I think they just wanted to find a way to keep this character in the show and make him relevant. So it's like, oh, let's just say he's a host, because I bet you if I go back and watch, I haven't seen season 1 in forever, but bet you if you go back and watch season 1, it will be blatantly inconsistent. His behavior, yeah.
And to be clear, I think I vaguely remember hearing or reading something about the writers or the showrunners even admitting that they didn't always think he was a host, but I don't know 100% that that's the case.
Okay.
I don't know that they definitely have admitted that, but there's absolutely no doubt in my mind, and I've recently rewatched season 1. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that they didn't come up with him being a host until maybe the end of season 2. That they decide, let's just make him a host now. So if you go back and watch season 1, that character was written to be a human. So they definitely, this is definitely a retcon. They definitely made this up later, and yeah, and I think the thing that will drive me over the edge, where I will just like want to rage quit the show, if they say Caleb is a host, because first of all, enough already with the.
Yes.
Not everybody should be a goddamn host. We need some humans on the show.
Absolutely. All right. Oh, go ahead.
And yeah, also with Caleb, it would destroy all the great metaphors they're having between human and host. If he's just a host, then there is no.
Yeah, well, all right. So I want to get into episode 3 now, because this is, sort of feeds in what I want to talk about episode 3 with Caleb, because this is what makes his character so beautiful, and I really loved his storyline in this episode, is that Dolores can actually relate to a human being, that he's being just as manipulated and trapped and used as she is, as the hosts are. They realize that the whole thing with Rehoboam, or whatever the hell that thing is called, is basically writing their whole lives. And that's what makes his character so powerful. And his human connection of having, the experience of going to war and having a friend who died, and having to, go through all the trauma where he's having that's a very human thing. If they revealed he was a host, that would completely ruin the show, or at least this season, I think.
Yeah. Oh, it would just totally destroy the whole thing for me.
But I think I am really, really, really confident that that's not going to be the case, though. Yeah. I have more faith in the showrunners not to do that, even though they fucked up with Stubbs. To do it with Caleb, I have more, because he's kind of a peripheral character, so who cares? Yeah. But I think they're definitely building a metaphor, and their whole house would crumble if they was like, aha, he's a host. So I have more faith in them not to do that.
Yeah. No, I am about 99% certain they will not do that, because I'm going to have faith. But then, I had faith in Dan and Dave, and look what they did. So, which I guess we could talk. We forgot to talk about them in episode 2. Actually.
Oh, right, Dan and Dave. See, let's get back to that then. I didn't notice that at first. I was a bit, because I guess I didn't know they were going to be it beforehand, so I wasn't looking for them, and it wasn't until it was pointed out to me, oh, that's Dan and Dave. I'm like, holy shit, it is. And I don't know. Maybe the TV I'm watching it on is too dark and not very clear, but I couldn't tell that there was Drogon. I couldn't tell what the hell that was sitting in the corner there until they pointed it out to me in the behind the scenes. They're like, that's Drogon. I was like, holy shit, that is a dragon, huh? I didn't even see, but I thought that was cool. It was like that they were going into medieval world, I guess it was, or whatever it was. And I thought that was awesome. I thought it was a great way to sort of have a cameo for those two guys. I did not mind at all, but apparently some people lost their shit over this.
Yeah, I think a lot of the preseason stuff I heard when it first came out that they were going to make an appearance in episode 2 was like, how dare you give Dan and Dave? I was like, really? And then the after episode was critique I heard was just more like, that. I don't know, that it's just cheap to have. It took away from. It didn't add to the plot, and it's just cheap to have HBO having their own things together. And it was just, just the stupid. Oh, look at us, we're from HBO. I don't know. I didn't have any problem with any of it. Yeah. I thought it was really cool. They had Dave and Drogon there. I thought that was funny.
There are few people in the world that hate Game of Thrones season 8 more than me. I despise it more than anything in the world. But who cares if they want to have a Dan and Dave cameo? I'm not going to care. I thought it was fun. I don't mind. Who cares? It's not the point that they totally fucked up the last season. They can still cameo, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Yeah, and also I didn't catch this watching it, but I've read about it afterwards. Did you catch that there was also apparently implied that Jurassic Park exists in
I
that
actually
universe.
caught that when I watched it. I actually did catch, because maybe I knew there was some dragon-like thingy, because I heard them talking about Costa Rica, and I'm like, hey, they're talking about like it's like sending dinosaurs to Costa Rica. It's like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I actually didn't catch that. Oh, let's. I'm going to say hi real quick to Jerome G. Orlando joining us in the chat. Good to see you, Jerome. Got two of our old school fans in here, Marilyn and Jerome.
Yeah, great to see you. Getting back from your essential work, yeah. I got my essential work at a takeaway restaurant tomorrow, but I had off today. But anyway, sorry. So let's get back to episode 3.
Yeah.
So the whole thing with Caleb and how she like sort of seduces him, like I completely bought it. I think some people think maybe he joined her too easily, but I don't. I think she totally sold it. Like the way she took him to the restaurant where he was abandoned as a child and told him his whole backstory. And she's like, how the fuck you know? So, well, it's all right here. This machine maps out your whole life. And then after that takes him to the pier where the machine predicts he's going to kill himself. I mean, nothing's more convincing. Like that. I don't know how anyone could not be completely convinced by that.
I love that scene where she took him to the deli. I thought that was so good. And yeah, I can't imagine it being any more convincing than that. Of course she convinced him. And then it took me my second time watching it to catch all of this, but there's a lot of there's a lot of hints that there's a lot of like little flashback scenes of him actually having sat on the dock and contemplating suicide. So I couldn't tell if they were trying to flash that to the future and say that's when he commits suicide, but I took it more as he has already gone there in the past and has already contemplated suicide. So it actually so it probably really resonated with him, even though he denied it, that, well, yeah, I've already actually come here and thought about committing suicide. And when those two dudes took him up on top of the building, this is something I didn't notice till the second time through either. He looks down and he sees the ocean at one point. Like he's hallucinating, or he's like imagining the ocean.
Yeah.
Like exactly like him. So he's almost like contemplating just jumping off there. So he has, I think we definitely are meant to believe he is absolutely contemplating committed suicide before. So when she tells him you're going to commit suicide on this dock 12 years from now, regardless of what he says, I think he fully believes that because he already has thought about it.
Now, I wonder your thoughts, though, on why Dolores decided to go out of her way to save his life and to recruit him, so to speak. I don't know what you're thinking on this, but I'm kind of thinking that at first she kind of just wanted to use him because she needed a human being. Like as we see in the next episode, she needs a human being, a man to pose as the banker guy. But because we're assuming it wouldn't work for her because they need to have the blood in it. But I think maybe it started out that way. But I think once she learned more about the Rehoboam and how they've been manipulated, that she felt like kinship with him, and she felt like it's not all about just the host now. It's all about freeing all repressed people, which is why I think the dynamic that he is a human being is so great, because it really fleshes out Dolores's character more. It makes her more about, rather than us being about her killing all humans everywhere, being like a Terminator or Matrix, it makes her be like more of Rage Against the Machine fighting the system, more of a class war type thing where she wants to free all repressed people. And that's why I love this story a lot more. That was just my take on it. I don't know what yours is.
Yeah, and I said in my review I wasn't sure, like a 50-50, and I still, I don't know, I guess I'm maybe leaning a little bit more in that direction, but I was kind of like unsure. Is she just using him because she needs a human for whatever reason, and she really just wants the host to just take over the planet and eliminate all humans, which is what Bernard seems to think she wants to do. Is it that, or is it that she does really relate to him? You're like us. I guess I'm kind of maybe leaning a little bit more in that direction now, that she does genuinely relate to him and genuinely wants to free all oppressed peoples, hosts, and humans.
Personally, I would find that a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
To me, it makes it more.
I think I would too. It also makes her not a pure evil villain.
Yes.
That she's not trying to wipe out humanity. And maybe initially she was, but once she started learning this, she's like, shows, actually, we do relate.
And it shows she's capable of evolving, of changing. And I think maybe in season 2, I have some people complain that she did come off a bit mustache twirly as villain. And I can see that in season 2 a bit. And so I think it would definitely really make her character a lot more dynamic. Now, I really, really have to point out what Jerome says in the chat here. So Jerome says, I would love if Aaron Paul has to kill Dolores because she destroyed humanity. And as he stabs her, the host Drogon comes and unleashes fire at their host milk bath things because symbolism. And then we see Dan and Dave characters watching and applauding. Yes. And then
the Game of Thrones jokes will never get it because we are all scarred from it. So we just gotta mock it for all eternity.
And then they can make Stubbs the new president of Delos. Because who has a better story than Stubbs? Anyway, so so let's talk about the Charlotte thing of it all, which of course we're looking at in a totally new perspective now after seeing episode 4, because now we know who Charlotte is. And well, first off, let me ask you this: do you think it was that it was a good decision to withhold who Charlotte is to the next episode, or maybe you think that perhaps if they're going to do it in the next episode, why not just reveal it here when it would have been more relevant?
Well, no, because I liked how they did the reveal where they had all the different Dolores and different scenes, and they were all they're all saying the same things. We're old friends, and I wouldn't want them to do it any differently than they did. I don't know if you saw my review, you know what my problem is with this is that the way that I think that they were intentionally trying to mislead you into thinking that, oh, it's not a copy of Dolores. It's something else, because that theory did exist, and I talked about that theory, and I dismissed that theory because of Charlotte's behavior, and I still go back and watch that episode and say that doesn't fit with her being Dolores, because she says a lot of things. I mean, you can do mental gymnastics and come up with excuses that I guess you could say, okay, I guess it fits, but I don't think it fits that when she first started, she didn't know who she was at first. She starts remembering who she is. She's like, oh, I remember who I am now. Oh, hey, there's me right there. So I guess she instilled in the copies the memory that they're copies. So once she remembers who she is, she remembers she's a copy. I guess I can go with that. But then she says, well, why can't I just be myself? Why do I have to be Charlotte? Why would she say that? Why can't there be two Doloreses running around? Of course, her whole existence is to be Charlotte. So why would she say that? Those are the types of things that they threw in there to throw you off the track, but don't actually make sense when you find out what the reveal is.
I don't know. This is the thing. I definitely agree with you. I do think it's a flaw, but it just doesn't. I maybe don't think it's as big of a flaw as you do. It doesn't bother me as much. I don't think it's maybe that as inconsistent. I think they definitely worded things carefully to avoid revealing, and that does annoy me whenever shows do that. Yeah. That's how the natural way people would talk would reveal it, but so they have to have them talk in an unnatural way in order to keep. Well,
they could have eliminated those lines. They didn't have to have those lines in there. Also, I mean, her personality was very un-Dolores-like, and I guess the explanation is she, because she's a copy of a copy or whatever. It took her a while to become the full-on Dolores, and that okay, fine. But my question is, how? Like, I would have thought that the original Dolores would be in the Charlotte body, because the original Dolores came over from Westworld in the Charlotte body. So I'm just wondering, like, how did she remove her own brain ball and put it in the Dolores body? Like, once the brain ball comes out, how does the body still function? Like, wouldn't it just like not function anymore?
She could have like an automated claw machine, like the claw thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's very, very clear that the original Dolores is the one in the Dolores.
I mean, how she did it, okay, that's questionable. But why she did it, I think, is very clear. She wants to be the mastermind. She wants someone else to be pretending to be Charlotte. For sure. Yeah.
And I want to be clear, like, this doesn't ruin the episode in any way. I love this episode. Both episodes. I guess we're still on episode 3, technically.
Yeah, we're on episode 3. Yeah, still talking about.
But it doesn't ruin either episode for me. It was a thing that kind of bugged me a little bit, because I feel like I guess is more disappointment, because I feel like Westworld usually does pretty good with that kind of thing. Like, I brought up the example of season 2 when I did a rewatch of season 2 after I knew the ending. Like, you watched Halores's behavior, which actually there are very, very few scenes of the actual, like, Dolores and Charlotte Hale's body in season 2. Like, a lot fewer than you might think there are.
Okay, right.
Yeah, there are you actually barely see her in that. It's that future timeline.
Yeah. Because she doesn't come into like halfway through, right? Like, at first it's just Bernard and Floki.
I think she comes in like episode 3, but then she doesn't appear again until like episode 7 or something.
Okay.
Like, she's actually barely in it. But when you do see her, you can see that it's Dolores. Like, if you look at her, the way that she's reacting to things, you can read it as Dolores. So it fits. So it's just a little disappointing to me that I don't, I feel like they don't want you to think about it too much. Like, don't think about this. Like,
here's the thing I do buy, though. If we learn that this isn't the original Dolores, it's a copy of Dolores, it makes sense to me that she would have this identity crisis. That she would think, because she's pretending to be Charlotte, but she's really Dolores, but really she's a copy. So it makes sense to me that she would have no idea who she really is, and she would start to think she's Charlotte.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see that. I can see the identity crisis. And another thing that adds up is that I was like, who is this host? Because she knows everything. Like, how does she have all this knowledge? And that does fit in with it being Dolores. And right down to the fact that she suspected that Dolores could kill her when they went up in that elevator. She's like, "Were you going to kill me?" And it's because she knows herself. So that all jives with me.
All right, so Jerome in the chat says Maeve was able to attempt to escape her brain ball out of her body, so I guess she just did it by computers, or maybe her brain info is already on a digital archive and she just imprinted it. I don't know. Dolores doesn't have Maeve's powers, though.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It could have been something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't know. I don't know if I'd like this. I know I do love this episode, but I don't know if I'd like this as much as the other two, because I did think it dragged on a bit with the Charlotte scenes. Maybe, like, I guess it's building like the whole thing with her watching the actual Charlotte Hill sing the song Lullaby to the Sun and then going to the sun. I guess it's there to show that she's having that identity crisis and starting to think she's Charlotte or whatever. But I don't know. I think maybe they dragged that out a bit too long.
I actually love that about that.
Okay.
I like the whole identity crisis that she was going through. I thought it was very, very interesting. Even without knowing who this actually is, just the fact that they would be going through this identity crisis made a lot of sense, and it was very, very interesting to me. And that aspect of it does make a lot of sense in retrospect, that she would be going through that identity crisis.
Now, yeah, I did think it was really interesting, though, how they revealed that she was, in fact, or Charlotte was the mole. Of course, Charlotte's actually dead. Yeah. So the Dolores, however you want to call it, wasn't aware of the fact that she's impersonating the person who was the mole until, like, I totally did not get how she was playing with the phone and the ringtones and she kept dialing the wrong number. Like, can you explain that to me? Did you get because every time she did that, I was like, what's the deal with this? It didn't make any sense to me.
I hadn't have any clue until the end, but I think that was like the secret code of the way of Sirach communicating with Charlotte Hale.
Yeah, but how did Dolores know about it?
She didn't. So I don't know.
Well, why would she keep playing with the phone then?
Because she was like, she was trying to figure out what the hell it was, is how I read it.
Oh, so she saw something on the phone that was a code for something, and she was trying to uncode it, and once she figured it out, she realized it was the code that Charlotte used. Okay, all right.
Yeah, well, she didn't realize until, like, she actually got to Sirach's house, because at first she's like, where the fuck are you taking me? Where am I going? She didn't understand what was going on. But yeah, I think she was just trying to decode it, but not knowing what it was.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Jerome says this is definitely better than what I expected the season to be since I wasn't too big on the premiere. Well, you missed the start of this video. I actually love the premiere, but that's just me. The premiere like totally sold me on the season. Yeah. That's just me. But anyway, so let's talk about this theory that Sirach is actually just in a projection of what's his name? Rehoboam.
That's the theory I talked about in episode 3, but in episode 4, I don't think it's true anymore.
Yeah, you gave up on it, but I watched another video who still thinks this after watching episode 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess they think that maybe he was projecting himself when he was in Singapore, or I don't know exactly how.
Yeah, but she wasn't wearing the glasses, the hologram glasses.
Well, she's a host, though.
Yeah, but neither was the other dude.
Oh, the dude that she was torturing.
There was like 3 dudes in that house.
No, but
two guys torturing him, and the other guy.
But the dude who was torturing had the glasses on, right?
Once he put them on him.
Oh, like, but
how is the hologram going to put glasses on him?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. I don't know. To be honest, I was never that big on this theory. In the first
no,
I
thought
mean,
it was
could
like
have been the case.
I thought it was a possibility after the first 2 appearances by him, but this episode to me completely dismisses it, in my opinion. But
I did think it was, though. I suppose so. Yeah. I just thought the whole reveal that he was manipulating Charlotte. I also got the impression that the Charlotte host might actually change her mind and actually work for Sirach, but I think that was way off on that one. Especially now we know.
Points out he also shot the guy.
Oh, of course, obviously, yeah.
Well, I mean, the only other explanation for that, and like my theory was when Maeve first sees him, that he never actually rebuilt her body. She was just still in a different simulation, like Warworld.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's enough crossover for Maeve in the real life. That would mean that everything Maeve does, including seeing Musashi Dolores, is in a simulation.
Yeah, all right. So that gets into another theory that I heard that I completely hate, and I really hope it is not the case, is that the entire season 3 is a simulation that Rehoboam is running, like in the future or something. He's like, all this already happened. He's running this simulation. I can't remember exactly how this theory goes, but it sounds stupid. I don't want this I mean, it was all well and good to make the world thing with Maeve a simulation. That was fine. But you can't make the entire season a simulation. That would just piss me off.
Me too. No, that's along the lines with the old, this was all a dream.
Yes. Where they're in purgatory the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's along those lines. That's very, very terrible, awful, just 8th grade writing level. Like that's, I remember when I first started. Yeah, literally, like when I was learning how to write, like doing 8th grade writing, creative writing things. Like it was always, and my classmates would always be like, "Oh, it's just a dream." Like that's like the old. Like that's very low level, poor writing. Like, and I have a lot more faith in Westworld than that.
Well, I suppose some people might argue, playing devil's advocate for a second, that would be a bit more complicated than that because it would be about a complicated computer program that controls everything running a simulation.
No, it's still just always. No, that's. I mean, yeah, I'm exaggerating saying it's 8th grade writing, but it's still.
No, I would still hate it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I totally
that's
hate
hyperbole. It's not literally 8th grade level writing, but it is. It is definitely. It would suck.
Yes. Total agreement about that one. All right, cool. So let's get into the latest episode to air, episode 4, and this one went a lot further than I thought it would. I was actually surprised that it went as far as it did. We got the information on who all these hosts were, and it was Dolores. Yeah, I really, and plus, like the whole thing. All right, so we get into the whole conflict between Maeve and Dolores, and you said earlier that there's a great thing about the show is that there's no good guys or bad guys. You don't really know which one to root for. But I mean, I definitely see that, and I agree. But me personally, I'm rooting for Dolores now. I'm against Sirach. I don't like Sirach. I see him as a bad guy and Dolores as a good guy. But I don't think that's what the show wants you to think. I'm thinking I just make that personal.
No, I think it's fair to take sides. If you're watching the show, I think it's fair. Like, I'm rooting for Dolores versus Sirach. I haven't taken sides yet because, I mean, I probably would lean more toward Dolores, but I also think I don't know her full the scope of her plan. What if her plan really is to wipe out humanity? I don't think that I would go along with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm kind of assuming that I'm taking her at face value of what she's saying to Caleb.
Yeah.
But she could turn out to be lying and just want to wipe them out. And like if she kills Caleb, then okay, I'm done with her.
But I mean, it's still, you can. I mean, I think it's fair to like root for Dolores versus Sirach, but at the same time, remember she, you know, as you mentioned earlier, she was described as a mustache twirly villain in season 2, and she hasn't really changed. And then we have Bernard, who is like the pure good guy who's trying to stop Dolores. So I think there's just layers of
yeah. And I would actually say, like, I don't know, like at the moment, and this could change, but at the moment you said there was kind of 4 parties. I would say it's more of 3 because at the moment Maeve is sort of, even though she doesn't really want to be, she's sort of on Team Sirach. So I think it's Dolores versus Sirach, and the wild card here is Bernard.
Right. Which I don't know if I can spoil a scene from the preview for next week.
Oh, please do. I gotta tell you, I had it to hear with people complaining about spoilers from the previews. Previews actually shown in the actual episode. If you watch the episode on TV and don't pirate it, then you, unless maybe you cut it off early or whatever, you see it's part of the thing. It's not a spoiler, but anyway.
I agree with you. But there's a scene where it looks like Sirach is showing Bernard, like Sirach and Bernard are together in next week's episode. So I don't know if that means Bernard is going to start working with him too. But it looks like Sirach is like showing him some big screen with some stuff on it, and so it looks like Sirach is showing him something. So and obviously they're both against Dolores, so I could see a scenario where Bernard.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know, but the thing about the promos of the trailers is that they can be deceiving because watching the ones from earlier this season led me to believe that Maeve was working with Bernard. And so the whole time I was expecting them to team up, but that turned out not to be the case at all.
Well, there's the preview. I thought that too, but then the preview after episode 1, which had scenes through the next 3 episodes up through episode 4, that preview made it clear that she was working for Sirach. But where I got thrown awry from that particular preview is there's a scene where Maeve goes, "Teddy, is that you in there?" And it goes real fast to Charlotte cutting herself from episode 3. And I thought she was talking to Charlotte.
Yeah, that fooled me too. Yeah, I thought she was talking to Charlotte as well. All right, now here's a question I have. We're getting off topic a bit, but you know how they had they revealed the I don't remember the dude's name. The the dude from Shogun World who showed up as
Musashi.
It's been a while since I've seen season 2. I've actually watched Lost more recently, so as soon as I saw it, it's like, hey, it's Dogen. I was like, oh wait, oh right, that's right. He was on Westworld as well. That's right. But how would he become the head of the Yakuza? Why didn't Dolores just make a host that emulated the actual head of the Yakuza, rather than make a host body that emulated the dude from Shogun World?
Because then you wouldn't get that cool scene. The dude from Shogun.
Yeah, that seems to be the answer.
No, I agree with that. I didn't mention this in my review, but I was thinking about this. Like, how did he get to be the leader of this whatever underground whatever so quickly? Because he instead of replacing somebody who already was the leader of it, Dolores made this host who clearly was not a person in the real world because he's from Shogun World. So how did he rise to be this big gangster so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a cool reveal as well. It's like, holy shit, it's dude from Shogun World, blah, blah, blah. But then once you think about it, it's like, that doesn't actually make sense.
Also, I mean, I guess Dolores knew about this guy. She looked in the computer banks or something. Because, like, how did she know about this guy? Like, how did she know to make this guy? Because I don't think she ever met him.
Not that, yeah. Yeah, that seems a bit convenient, but it's not. I don't think she. And I can't. All right, you've seen the first 2 seasons of Westworld more recently than I have, so maybe you can remind me how much did Dolores and Maeve actually interact with each other in the first 2 seasons?
So in the first season, I don't know that they interacted at all, except when they were in character, like in character, like Westworld characters.
Yeah,
knowing who they really were. The second season, I think it's the second episode. They cross paths, and Maeve is off to go find her daughter, and Dolores is off to do her thing, and Dolores is trying to convince her to join them. Then Maeve's like, oh, you want to free the host? You just want to free yourself, or something like that, which is something similar to she ends up saying in this episode. And you just see that they have different opposing objectives, and like they're not on the same team. And then Dolores, Maeve's like, well, you're going to kill us? You're going to let us go past? And Dolores is like, okay, go by. And then they cross paths again when Maeve is shot and brought in on a stretcher into the, what was that place called? Why am I forgetting?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like,
the headquarters, whatever.
Mesa, yeah.
She's brought into the Mesa on a stretcher after she's been shot down by those dudes with the guns when she was trying to save her daughter. And Dolores is at the Mesa because she had just ridden the train in there and was trying to get her dad back. She ends up getting her dad's brain ball or whatever. So she sees Maeve on the stretcher, and they have a little talk then. And Dolores, I don't remember exactly the word for word what they said, but basically like they have a little bit of a weird bond there. When Dolores is willing to kill her to save her or something like that. Like she was very kind of, I mean, they were adversarial, but also she was very empathetic to her. I don't remember like the exact lines or anything anymore off the top of my head. But they did have that sort of interaction there. So it was two interactions that they had, but they were both kind of very strong interactions because they showed you how each character had their own different ways of viewing the world, and they have like they both times they had these like strong philosophical conversations.
Okay.
But they were only 2, but they were very like I guess powerful.
Yeah.
Like big connections.
From this episode, I didn't get the impression that they were like diametrically opposed to each other. Is more the fact that she's working for Sirach. She's like, I'm sorry, I can't let Sirach use you to stop me, so I have to kill you.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily they're diametrically opposed, but they both wanted freedom for the host, but they had different ways of going about it. Like they had different philosophies about how to do that. Maybe
Yeah.
actually, I mean, she didn't care, I guess, about the whole, like, let's free our whole race. She thought that was nonsense. It was more like, I just want to free my friends and my daughter.
Yeah. It's more of she's a bit more personal and
Yeah.
localized. Oh, I forgot to talk about this in episode 2. But what do you think we'll see the actual Hector again this season? Oh, you muted yourself.
Didn't mean to do that. I don't see how, honestly. I kind of am disappointed about that. I'd like to see Hector again, the real Hector, and the Armistice as well, but I don't know where they fit in because it doesn't seem like going back to the park, and I don't know how they get out of the park unless Sirach goes, "Oh yeah, I've got Hector and." I don't know. I get my answer to that is I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what they might bring in more, because this is the one thing it feels like. It feels like the cast of characters really shrunk this season. Not many characters who in the first 2 seasons are appearing again. Just like Dolores and Maeve and Bernard and Stubbs and Will Williams in this one episode.
Yeah, they killed off a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And then other characters, Hector, Armistice, and then Felix and Sylvester, in which I've never been a huge fan of Felix and Sylvester. I could do without them. But
Hector and all them didn't go into the Sublime, did they?
No, they were just like Maeve. They ended up
okay.
Hector and Armistice, like their bodies were lying on the ground.
And Clementine was never made it to the Sublime either, because she was used as the evil device or whatever.
Yeah. And at the end of season 2, some minor character tech person we had never seen before goes up to Felix and Professor and go, "Hey, can you clean up this mess? Can you geniuses think you can take care of that?" And you see like the Maeve and the Hector body laying on the ground. So it was like that they were gonna bring her back, but I guess they didn't.
I think it would be cool to see them again, see Sylvester and Felix bring back Hector and all them. See, I at first thought it would be a really cool turn if Hector and whatever other face was actually they were the hosts working with Dolores. I thought that would be a cool twist.
I thought that might be there might be a chance of that. I didn't think either of them fit as Charlotte, but I thought maybe Hector is Connell, and maybe Armistice will show up as somebody else. But yeah, I definitely thought that could be a possibility. But
but turns out that's not the case.
I want to see those characters again. I'm not sure at this point how we would see them.
But I'm actually glad it wasn't Teddy. So many people were guessing it was Teddy that was Charlotte. I never want to see anyone who went into the Sublime again. Because if they say, "Oh, they're not really in there," like let them stay in the Sublime and just
Well, along with the Dolores making the copy of herself theory, there was also a theory. I don't know if anyone else thought of this, but I also, maybe she made a copy of Teddy, and there's one in the Sublime and one in Charlotte. But I was like, I didn't want that to be the case.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't be mad at that for the implausibility of it. It would be possible, but it wouldn't be very interesting.
And I don't think it would have made sense at all for Charlotte to be Teddy. I just wouldn't make it.
I agree. Especially after the whole thing with the pedophile like attacking him. That's not Teddy's character.
None of that. I didn't think any of that was Teddy's character. So I didn't. Yeah.
Now let me talk a bit about the Bernard and Stubbs, because I maintain I hate the whole thing with Stubbs, but I gotta admit that they're sort of team bromance, whatever, is interesting enough. I mean, it still upsets me though every time I see him how contrived it is that Stubbs is a host. But whatever, if I just go with it and I was like, okay, it kind of works. Like some people were like, "Oh, the fight scene with Dolores and Stubbs was so amazing," and I was like, I thought it was boring. Like I wasn't particularly interested in it because I don't really care much about Stubbs.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of nice how they were like, "Hey, what's up? Yeah, I respect you. You respect me."
Oh yeah, that was cool.
But which I guess that only is based off of when we can assume when Stubbs let Charlotte go, he somehow knew it was Dolores.
Yeah. Which that still doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought watching that, even not thinking that he was the host, that he had guessed that Charlotte was not Charlotte somehow.
Yeah.
And not necessarily that she was Dolores, but that she was. But yeah, I mean, I hate the Stubbs being a host thing equally as much as you did, but I did my rant on it, and I just I'm going to let it go and move on and roll with it. I'm not going to let it bring down the show for me, but so I'm just like, fine. I love the bromance between Stubbs and Bernard. I think those characters have a lot of chemistry. I think they work well together. So I'm just going to roll with it, just let it go. But that doesn't mean that I don't think that was just a terrible piece of writing and that is awful. I'm just like trying to let it go.
See, I'm like you. When I first saw the episode, I missed the part where Bernard and Stubbs thought that the Liam was the host, was replaced by a host. I totally didn't get that until they showed up and they tried pushing the button. They're like, "It's not working." I actually thought that was pretty cool that they were close because she replaced the security guard, but they were off a bit. I actually like that.
Yeah. Yeah, when I watched it twice, and my second time through, I saw in the scene in the hotel room that they thought it was Liam. I'm like, oh, okay, but I didn't. Just like you, the first time I watched it, I was like, I thought that they understood it was Connell until they tried to press the button.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting because during this scene, I was actually rooting for Bernard to fail. I was rooting for Dolores. I don't know. Maybe I guess the whole speech she gave to Caleb about how we're going to start a revolution. I'm like, yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah, I wasn't 100% convinced that she was sincere with that speech. So I was like, if she's sincere, yes, but I don't know that I necessarily was fully on board.
Yeah, I might be being a bit naive here by believing her. But but Serac is just so despicable, like wanting to control everything. And that's another thing in this episode. We get his backstory where Paris was nuked or whatever, where you can kind of understand his point of view where he wants to make sure humanity doesn't destroy stuff. But I don't sympathize with him more. I understand him more, which makes him a good character and a believable villain, but I still don't like him.
Yeah. No, I don't either. But I guess my thing is I'm not convinced Dolores is not trying to wipe out humanity, which would make them both villains. If that
and that would be really interesting too if they're two villains as well.
So I don't know. I don't really know how they all fit in yet, and so we get to see the second half of the season before I can really say who I was rooting for, who was I? Because I don't know who I'm rooting for right now. If Dolores is sincere, then yeah, I actually kind of am rooting for her, but I'm still not 100% convinced she was sincere. So I don't know.
Yeah, but the funny thing is I was rooting for Dolores and Caleb when they were taking on the other people Bernard and those people. But I was actually rooting for Maeve against what's his name? Even though she's working for Serac, who I don't like. So it's an interesting dynamic.
I think I'll always root for Maeve. I just Maeve.
It was just that with her. All the scenes with her in this episode were amazing. How she just was able to control technology. Like how they foreshadowed how she was walking down the street and all the technologies just started blinking out and going out as she walked. And how easily she was able, people kept trying to attack her. Like, okay, can we just stop this and have a conversation? Their attitude like that. I thought that was
great. She just her attitude the whole time. And I didn't mention this in the review, but I love the line when she's like, "What are you, the police?" She's like, "No, darling, no need to call names." And I don't know how many would know about the police, but still, I thought that was. I like she, and then the other dude tries to shoot her, and she's just like, it's so good, yeah. Yeah, it's hard not to root for Maeve. It's just
I don't know if there's anyone watching who's naive enough to think that she's dead, because of course she's not. We got to see more of her.
Yeah. She's died 100 times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, dead isn't gone and not coming back. but yeah.
Now, especially since Musashi Dolores had to run off and leave the body there, and it was because Sirach's men had found them. I'm pretty sure Sirach's men will go and get Maeve and take him. I think we'll just see Maeve again with Sirach saying, "Bring yourself back online," and she'll just be fine because she will be put in a new body. And, yeah, that's what I would expect.
Now, I think part of the reason people have these theories that this is all a simulation or whatever, or those interlude scenes that show like the giant circle and says divergent detected and blah, 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 which I don't think that's necessarily, that means the entire thing's a simulation, but I think it's Rehoboam is running like its simulations and it's detecting in real time like divergence that are divergent from like his grand plan or whatever, and maybe that's why Sirach is so desperate to get that information from Dolores, because that would make his like Rehoboam a bit more perfect, so there wouldn't be any divergence anymore.
Yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with your interpretation there. That makes me a lot more sense than being a whole simulation.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's interesting because Sirach referred to, like, when he took Maeve to the place where Dolores is out, this is the point of divergence. And that's what made some people think that, still believe that Sirach is still a program of. But I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't know.
But anyway, let's talk about William. We haven't talked about him yet. His stuff, and I don't know. I'm kind of done with William. When I heard he was going to be in this episode, I was like, yeah, all right, fine. But I liked the stuff they did. I heard that he's from previews. Someone said that he's definitely going to be later in the season. Which I don't think that I would be fine if this was the last time we saw William for a while anyway. Like, I would be fine with it. Like, if we never saw him again for the rest of the season, because I think this is a good ending. In fact, I kind of wish that would be this way, because I want to think that he's trapped in that mental institution going insane and whatnot. So the stuff with him is perfect. Now, I can't remember if it was you who said this in an interview, but do you think that Dolores kind of originally, or not, Dolores, or what do you call it? Whatever.
Yeah.
do you think that she originally planned to have William speak at the thing, but then saw that he was a bit insane, so changed her plan?
I think, well, my thought was that she originally was going to have William come back to Delos until he said, "Oh, well, maybe you're the mole."
Right.
And then she was like, "Oh, well, I got to take care of this. I can't have him going around telling people I'm the mole because I am."
Yeah.
But I also, if it ended up being that she had always planned it, I wouldn't be like shocked. I would say that makes sense too. But that is just my inclination, that I thought, like, when she's shaving him and he's like, "You're the mole," that's when she's like, "Yeah, I can't bring him back to Delos. I got to do something about this."
Yeah, people were pointing out that the scene she was shaving him was a clue that it was Dolores. Yeah,
like Dolores is shaving.
Yeah, I had forgotten all about that. But see, for me, it would make more sense if she didn't have that plan to begin with, because if she did, why dress him up and make him look more presentable? It seems like her case for him being insane would be better served if he was still alive, looking all crazy.
Yeah, but I think she perfectly made him look insane by being like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm Dolores," and then so he can go, "Oh no, that's not the real her. It's Charlie Hill. It's Dolores. What are you talking about? Look, he's crazy." Like, I thought that was actually brilliant. Like, regardless of what, how well he dressed and everything, and it really fucked with him too. Just like really messed with his head. Like, "Oh yeah, I'm Dolores." "No, I wasn't Charlie Hill. He's just crazy there."
Yeah, no, that part was that was amazing. Yeah,
that was. Addressed, our good friend Don Willie has appeared in the chat.
Yes. Good to see you, Dan.
He doesn't agree with your being okay with William being gone for the rest of the season.
But I mean, I think this character served his purpose. Like, he was good enough for the first couple of seasons, but I don't know. I don't think you need him anymore. But I could be wrong.
Well, I'll put it this way. I would be okay if we don't see William again. But if we do see him again, then I don't want it to be just for the sake of seeing him again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want to leave that episode, whatever episode he's in, like, oh, this was important. We needed him. I'm glad he was back. But I don't want him just to have William in there just for the sake of it. So I could be okay with them not having William again this season as well. But if they do bring him back, I'm okay with it too, as long as it makes sense for him to be there.
So Joanna says, I think she planned it because she had those guys outside waiting that claimed to be working for that she claimed were working for an institution. If that was a contingency, those guys would be Delos guys. Were they there the whole entire time?
No, I don't think they were there the whole entire time.
I thought they just showed up at the end.
Charlotte left and came back.
Yeah.
Left and then came back with those guys. So.
Yeah, I didn't think those guys were there the whole entire time.
Yeah, I don't think they were either.
I thought she came alone at first, but then she came back with those guys. That's what I got.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I could be wrong.
Now, can we talk about this? Like, I did not catch this at all, but Charlotte put this like little prickly thing in William.
Oh yes, I caught that.
I caught the prickly thing, but I didn't catch. Like, I didn't go and expand on that to what I saw in another video where someone said that the Dolores that we see at the end is not a hallucination, but is.
See, that was my original thought.
Yeah.
When I first saw the Dolores at the end, I'm like, she implanted that in him. But we still don't know if that's the case, though. But that was my first thought.
There's also the theory that at some point, like, I don't know when she would have done this, but she did that too for the Emily thing. So the Emily is not a hallucination, but is also an implant thing. But I don't see how that would have happened. But I saw Emily more as a hallucination. But
oh yeah, no, I saw her as definitely as a hallucination.
Yeah,
but this Dolores was listening in, so could hear the. She knew that he was talking to his daughter because she was eavesdropping on him.
Yeah,
and I think that's all that was. I think it would, to me, be more interesting if the daughter was actually a hallucination. But by the way, those scenes were fucking amazing. The whole way they were shot.
Yeah. It was so good. Like the opening scene, it was so good. All of those scenes, everything they did with it, the way that they were fluctuating her voice back and forth, what she was saying to him, and I didn't even mention this in my review, but some of the things that she said to him, like, just really challenging his whole idea about so are you evil and you have free will, or are you innocent but you're just a slave? Just really messing with it. I thought it was so good. Don Willie, am I me? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's what Williams says at the end.
Yeah.
Yep. But here's the thing, like, getting back to the whole enough with the hosts things, William's a human. If they ever say he's a host, that will piss me off. And I think it's clear. I thought they made that very clear in season 2 that he was a human.
Yeah, I mean the future William is something else.
Well, yeah, yes, the post-credit scene in season 2. That's something. Yeah, I watched a review where they got confused. They thought that scene was in the present. I'm like, no, that's like the far future. That's like was the dude Delos? What was his first name? The dude they did it to in season 1 of season 2. I mean,
wait, the dude that you mean they did it to in season 2?
Yeah, 2. Yeah.
James Delos, I think.
Yeah, James. Yeah, so it's the same.
Father you're talking about?
What's that?
You're talking about Logan's father?
Father-in-law, yeah.
William's father-in-law, Logan's father.
I thought you said William. You said Logan. Gotcha.
Yeah, Logan.
Yeah, Logan's father. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I think it's the same deal as that scene, but it's in the future. So here, this is the actual William.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the actual William, but I can see it being some other weird thing where they implanted something in it. I don't know. There could be some other thing where he's not totally human, but I don't think that he's a host, just straight up host.
Yeah.
but more likely he's straight up human.
Yeah.
But I can see it being like something else where he's like some other weird thing, but not that he's a straight up host. I think that was pretty well proven. But he hasn't decided yet because his daughter was trying to almost got him to cut open his arm so he could look again.
Well, no, it's just because I watched this review. It was like, oh, they're still playing with the question of whether or not William's a host. I'm like, no, they're not. He's not a host.
I think he is still questioning it. But
yeah, he is. Yeah. But he's questioning everything. He thought his daughter was a host and killed her because of that. Yeah. And I like how he threatened to kill Charlotte, but and in fact she is a host.
Yeah, but he was going to kill her because she's not real.
Yeah.
I thought it was still part of that hallucination.
Yeah.
Which wasn't.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think I would be okay with not seeing William again for the rest of the season just because I like the thought of him being stuck in that mental institution for a while. Like, if they break him out very quickly, I think that's going to be a bit disappointing.
Yeah, like I said, that's a pretty posh mental institution.
Yeah.
Like, I've had apartments not as nice as that. He's got his own, like, bathroom with a sink and everything. Like, he's got a pretty huge space there. It's like the rich people.
But that makes sense because he is rich.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you make anything about the fact that he's wearing white now as he was a man in white?
Oh, I think that's just cool symbolism. Like, people, he's the man in white now.
And I also have noted that all throughout, Maeve has been wearing a white dress and Dolores has been wearing a black dress. So I think they're just trying to play with those colors.
I didn't notice that one. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. All right. So I think that's it for episode 4, unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
No, I don't think so.
All right. So any thoughts of where the season's going to go from here? Any theories? I mean, we talked a bit about all the theories. Like, most of the theories I talked about, I am dismissive of. I don't know if I heard one that I really like.
No, I haven't either, and I don't want it to be a simulation or anything like that. I want it to be straight up what we are seeing, because I want to know what is Dolores' true motivation, what is Sirach's full plan, what is Dolores' full plan, how does Bernard fit in, what ultimately is Maeve going to do. I don't know if she's going to completely work for Sirach the whole time. How are all these characters going to fit together? Is Caleb ever going to wake up and decide that he's on the wrong side? Those are the questions I'm asking. If it is a simulation, then all those questions are meaningless. So that would be bullshit. So I absolutely do not want it to be a simulation. So those are kind of the things I'm thinking about as far as where I think the show is going to go.
I'm really curious to see what they do with Bernard. As I said, I think he's a real wild card here. Yeah. Like, even if he does team up with Sirach to go after Dolores, I think that would be a very uneasy or very fleeting alliance. Like, I don't think he would ever be fully on Team Sirach.
I agree.
Like, and even Maeve, like, I can see her not working with Sirach anymore if her situation changed, because at the moment she's just doing it because she's manipulated. She doesn't want to be locked in the prison. She'd rather be in the Sublime, but something could completely happen to change her mind.
And I would expect at some point that is going to happen. Like, I wouldn't expect her to work for Sirach until the end of this season. So, but I don't know.
And will Sirach actually be the father of Vulcan philosophy and logic? All right. So Jerome says, do you think we'll get to the post-credits scene by the end of the season, start of next season, or you think that's going to be another full season or dismantling of the world? I think it's like 2 or 3 seasons.
I think the showrunners confirmed it's like season 5.
Oh, did they?
Or last year they said like something. Oh, it's gonna be way down, like maybe season 4 or 5, like way down the line. Yeah. So I think that's they've. I don't know if they specified a season. I don't want to quote them for that, but I do remember them implying that it's like way future stuff. Like,
that's what I got the impression as well. So I definitely don't think we'll get to it by the end of this season. I think that's way too soon.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, do you think that the show has kind of reframed this season the what the show is about by bringing in Rehoboam? Because it seems like the whole thing's about him now, and well, him or it controlling the destiny of all humans everywhere. That this changed the dynamic of the entire show. Maybe that's why some people are unhappy with the show.
I think it's added another layer to the show, but I don't think it's changed the whole dynamic of the show as far as Dolores still wants liberation for the hosts. I think that just adds another layer to it. It makes it more interesting. So I don't think it's changed the whole dynamic. I think it's just added more to it.
Yeah. I think it's, well, I don't know. I'm kind of somewhere in between because I think it has changed the dynamic, but in a good way. Like, I think that, as I said, if this is the case and what we're seeing with Dolores is at face value that she's not wanting to just kill all humanity, that she wants to, is more fighting against the oppressed, against the rich and powerful who are trying to control everything. Because this is I forgot to get in with this Caleb, but this is the interesting thing about Caleb and why I like him so much as a character. Because in previous seasons, pretty much all the humans we saw were rich assholes.
Yeah.
And that was the only introduction, because those are the people who went to the park, so that makes sense. And the people who controlled the park. Or people who worked for rich assholes. I mean, I suppose Felix and Sylvester would be the only exception.
Yeah.
But that is not really, for the most part, it's just all the humans we saw were rich assholes. So I think it's so interesting that brings in another layer. And I think it honestly could have changed Dolores' whole worldview, that no, it's not just all of humanity that's my enemy, it's the rich and powerful, and the rest of humanity is being screwed just as much as I am. And I like that dynamic. I like that. I think that makes her a much more interesting character than her season 2 where she was a bit mustache twirly.
Yeah, I'm just still not 100% convinced of that. But I would agree with you if that is the case.
I'm really hoping that's the case, because to me that would be a lot more interesting than if she does turn out to be a mustache twirly, like turn T-1000, just wanting to wipe out all humanity.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a lot more interesting that way. And I do agree with you about Caleb as far as this, and I brought this up in my reviews too, that we're getting our first look at like the common man. I was thinking that more in episode 3 is when I was really getting that, like, this is what they're doing to just the common person, and just a very stark contrast to what we see in the park. And I'm pretty sure that at some point in the series they quoted how much it costs to go to the park, and it's like some hundreds of thousands of dollars a day or something. Like, it's something only rich people could afford.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like all the guests that we see are super rich people. So this is like the first time we're actually seeing like just a normal, ordinary person through the Caleb character, and I really like that too.
And this was my main complaint of season 1, that all of the hosts were seen as the good guys and all the humans were the bad guys. And to me, that was a bit one-on-one, where now they're getting a bit more complex. Who's the real villains or good guys? We don't know. It's a lot more complex now.
Well, I think there's a little bit of layers in the first season. Like, I think Charlotte was always evil, and Patricia in the first season was kind of like, Ford was always like, what it is, do I root for Ford or not? Like, I never really quite did.
Yeah.
So I think there was a little bit of layers. I don't think it was just as cut and dry as all humans good.
Well, yeah, sure, there were some layers, but I think it's a hell of a lot more complex now.
Oh, way more.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we'll go ahead and end this discussion here. Thank you guys so much for joining the chat. I think Marilyn Bentley might have left now, but you were here earlier. Thanks so much for joining. Jerome, Don, good to see you guys. Akton, of course, thanks so much for joining me. So let people know where they can find you and what you're up to.
You can find me on Akton Tamko's channel, and I'm up to Westworld reviews every week. Please go ahead and check out the ones I've already done if you haven't already. And I will be doing it weekly. Usually I'm getting it out by like Tuesday morning-ish. So, like, give me a day between the episode and the for me to get the video out. So, but that's coming out weekly. Also, if you are a Star Trek fan, this is good news for you, Mark. I have finished rewatching the first season of Deep Space Nine, and I'm going to start working on that review very soon to do the entire first season of Deep Space Nine, episode by episode, and I will go eventually through every season, and we'll see how long this quarantine lasts to see if I get through, how quickly I get through 7 seasons. I'm also working. I work from home, so I don't.
Oh, you are working from home.
Yeah, I'm working from home. So, as a teacher, we're expected to do distance learning. So I got to figure out how I'm supposed to teach my special ed students who are not at home. So it's I don't know. So I'm still working. So it's not like I have all day every day to do these videos, but I definitely have more time. So we'll see. But definitely expect first season review of Deep Space Nine within a couple days, and then go through the seasons. So those are the 2 main projects I got going on: Westworld every week, and then I'm going to work on my DS9 rewatch and review.
So excited about this! I've been trying to get you to do Deep Space Nine for years. So anyway, if you're finding me for the first time, I'm Mark. My channel's Enchantment of Eternity. At the moment, I'm actually doing Star Trek Next Generation, something Akton has already done. I'm working on my season-by-season reviews. I did season 1 last month, and just season 2 just dropped a couple days ago, so you can check both of those out. Season 3 will be coming next month. And of course, while I haven't been covering Westworld, but obviously probably I'll do another one of these live chats with Akton at the end of the season, probably on his channel, but then I'll also do my own end of the season review for Westworld where I'll go through the whole of season 3. And also at the moment I'm covering Better Call Saul. There's I think 2 episodes left of that, so yeah, definitely covering that and doing other Expanse and Star Trek videos and whatnot here and there. So be sure to check all that out. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.